So this job was quite a nightmare. This is the harness that goes to the seat control unit at the front of the seat. The yellow connector here goes to the occupancy sensor in the seat, and the other one goes to the seat belt buckle. And there's 2 screws and 1 clip that holds that control unit to the base of the seat. And of course the seat is screwed in with E-Torx screws, just to make life interesting. So this is the 210 seat removed. I would imagine this is similar to other MBs of this era. These 3 motors were frozen solid, which made removing this seat one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life. Of course, the seat was the whole way back, so I couldn't access the rear bolts on the rails to remove the seat. And of course, the seat was the whole way down at the rear. So I had to remove the control unit from the front. There's 2 screws that hold it in there and 1 clip at the rear that sits on this bar. Unplugged it at the front from the vehicle harness and then unplugged it at the rear from the motors. And then I struggled like all hell unscrewing these 2 screws for this motor. This is the rear lift motor. I took that off. You can see it here. The actual, it's like a speedo cable, a similar kind of construction, square section. I took that out of the gearbox here, stuck it in the motor, and then used pliers and just broke it free. And then I could connect the motor to my 12-volt power supply. I've got a bench power supply, and then I could successfully lift the rear of the seat, which allowed this nightmare to progress somewhat. I then accessed the middle motor. That was also frozen, so that's the one that makes the seat go forwards and backwards. I did the same with that. That's even more difficult because this screw is ridiculously difficult to access. These are Torx screws, of course, just to make life interesting. Eventually I got that out with a long Torx screwdriver and a 1/4 inch open-ended spanner because I could not actually get in there to turn it with my hand. So the 1/4 inch I put on the shaft of that screwdriver and I broke it free. So that screw and that other screw is out, and then I unfroze that motor and I was able to move the goddamn seat forward, and then I was able to get it in the house. And it's so hot outside I almost passed out. It's like 40 something degrees outside at the moment. This is an absolute nightmare, but I'm a sucker for punishment. At least it's now inside the house, and I can service these motors. They don't look like they're rusty, so I should just get away with lubricating them. It's probably this rear bush that's seized, because that's exposed to the elements. Well, there should be no elements inside your car, but this is a goddamn Queensland car, so you pretty much do have the elements inside your car. High humidity and chances of water. Just a further note, this motor was so goddamn frozen that this thing was just flexing around, and I may well have damaged that. So I used a square bit. These are used for woodworking. Square head screwdrivers, and that allowed that to free up. Right, so all 3 of these motors have now been lubricated on the front side and on the back side where that bushing is actually exposed. And all I've used is my trusty 3-in-1 oil. Just as a side note, there is a global shortage of this stuff at the moment, and you can't actually get it anywhere, particularly in Australia. They won't be expecting any more supplies until about April, so if you don't have this, you're going to have to use something else. I suspect these might actually just seize up from lack of exercise, because, being the passenger seat, it's not going to get a lot of work. And these motors look like they're actually pretty good, other than, being completely seized. Let's give it some exercise now on the bench power supply and see how they perform. So this is the left side seat controller for either right-hand drive cars or left-hand drive cars that don't have steering wheel electronic adjustment. That'd be kind of weird, but I guess it's possible. Yeah, it's just 2 screws at the front that hold that in and a clip at the rear. And all of the connectors are under this cover here. This has actually had water go inside it, but I've cleaned up the PCB. This wasn't the problem. Surprisingly, this actually works, even though it's had water in there, but there's no actual corrosion to the board, surprisingly. I've used PCB cleaner and it's come up pretty good. The problem was definitely these motors being seized, and they're all now extremely well lubricated, and they're all moving. I'm probably going to have this seat leather serviced while it's out. I want to have all of them redone because they're kind of disgusting, and the colour needs to be redone. I might get a professional to do that because I don't like my leather handling skills. I've tried before and I didn't do a very good job, so I'd rather get someone to do it that knows what they're doing, and then all of these seats will look brand new, and that's what I'm going for.